Alright. Now I'm going to make a higher hydration pizza dough. I measured my half gram of yeast with a precision scale. Smoke shops are great to find these. It's harder to find them at Walmart or online even. You can get good prices at a smoke shop and they're really accurate. Then I got my bigger digital scale that has a higher capacity that I'm going to do the rest of my measuring on. So this is going to be, I'm going to do 72% hydration. If you're using all-purpose, this is about 70. It applies to the same thing of about 70% hydration. I just want to go a little bit higher to make sure I can show you the kneading technique, because right before 70 is where you go from having to hand knead it to the slap and fold technique. That's at about 68%, and I don't want to hit that if my bread flour is too strong, so I'm going to up it just to 72 to be safe. So anyways, get to 72, I'm doing a 500 gram of flour batch or a half kilo batch, so I'm going to use 360 grams of water. Close enough, 357, I'll take it. That's between 70 and 72. And I do it this way with the water first because I can always pour some out. And I'm good to go from there. Next thing I like to do is add my yeast. I have a half a gram of yeast, that's 0.1% in baker's math. I throw it in there to get hydrated. And I throw some sugar in there to give it some food. Next thing I'm going to do is measure out. I'm going to tare my scale. And I'm going to measure out 500 grams of flour. And I do this way because if I add too much, I can always just scoop it out back into my bag. But you can't really do that with the salt and the sugar and the yeast, so I do that on my precision scale. Alright, 500 grams of flour. So I do it like that because I kind of scoop it, put it back into my bag, try to make it flat once I got it right, and I add my salt right on top. That's when I take it off of my scale because I'm going to kind of start the mixing process. And with one of these, a little dough bowl scraper, they have them at Walmart. They're a wonderful tool. I'm going to just start to mix everything and hydrate it all. And the more hydrated your dough is, the easier it is for your flour to absorb the water. So this part doesn't take very long to just get it absorbed. If I'm still missing my oil, this dough is a 2% salt, 2% sugar, 2% oil. Super easy dough to remember. Makes a great New York pizza dough. Makes a great bread dough. If you have diastatic malt powder, I would use that over sugar. But I don't have my hands on it right now, so I'm using sugar. Diastatic malt powder has the amylase enzyme, which helps when the flour gets hydrated, break down the simple sugars in the flour. So it's kind of like sugar on steroids in a way. It's perfect for dough in particular. And it is a technical ingredient, once again, not necessarily for flavor. Helps the maturation of the dough through leavening, as food for the yeast and a way to process the complex sugars in flour, make them more simple for the yeast to eat, and they also add to browning. Caramelization. Alright, now at a point where I'm like this, where there's some dry flour, but not that much. I know most of my flour is hydrated by water. I don't like adding my oil first, I usually add it last. And I just kind of throw it all on top there. Is this the wrong oil container? No. I'm just an idiot. There we go. Get every last little bit of that. And back to mixing it all around. And it's pretty close to a massive dough. Alright, cool. So a wet dough is going to be a sticky dough. So you'll see it's going to be weird to try to hand knead it. Maybe at first while you still got some stiff flour, it might not be too bad. But it's going to get weird. So what I do is I wet my hands. I do what's called the slap and fold technique. A lot of you might be intimidated by kneading high hydration dough. It's really not that bad at all. So, basically go like this. You wet your hands. I accidentally dried my hands off. Wet your hands, and you go under it. You slap the bottom down and go over. Do it fast. When you wet your hands, the dough doesn't stick to your hands. Got a little watery spot. So once again, going like this. Slapping it down, going over. You want to do it fast so it doesn't stick to your hands. So I'm at a stage like this where it's all pretty much a dough. It's 11:23, so 11:31, 8 minutes from now, I'll be done kneading. So yeah, I can feel this bread flour is pretty strong actually. The 72 doesn't feel crazy hydrated, honestly. Also, you're going to want this on the table too, to kind of clean up as you go. Don't do it every slap and fold, but every couple minutes do it. At first, your dough is going to break a lot. That's perfectly normal. There's no real gluten development yet. See, it's starting to come together. So once again, I'm slapping it, going over. Notice this side stays on the top the whole time. That's the start of your skin on the outside of your dough. And every time you do this, you're getting air into that dough. And don't worry about your hands getting messy, you can clean them at the end. As you get further along, it'll stop sticking to your hands and the table as much. So I'm going in 90 degrees, slapping it, going. Time. Got 2 2 minutes left. Rinse a little bit off my hand. My hand wet again. That's definitely good. And now, let this dough sit for 3 minutes, just right here, just like that. So 11:33. What I usually do at this point is I clean my bowl. It's okay if it's not covered right away. Alright, so now I'm going to grab some of my dusting flour. And just dust the top. Want to get most of it there, looks good. Looks like I need a little help from my friends. So I got it over. I'm gonna go out and in like that, basically till I have the whole thing covered. I like to squeeze it, and that sticky side is gonna go on the bottom. What I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna go all the way on the table, but about a centimeter up. Go around, pull back. So I'm going from 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock and pulling back. It's called walking the dough or building tension. You see how smooth it's becoming now? It builds tension up on the top. And that dough looks beautiful. I'm going to drop it in there for a little bulk fermentation. Since I'm making this dough tomorrow, instead of a 2-day cold ferment like I usually do, I'm giving it a little bit of bulk fermentation. Alright, so with a 70% hydration dough like this, you got to keep in mind it's a well hydrated dough. It's going to be wet. Wet doughs, wet hands to handle. So you just want to lightly wet your fingers and just go around the whole dough so you can pick it up out of the bowl, pop it right there. And you have two choices. You use flour or oil on the dough. Either or works. I'm going to show you with flour. If you're going to use oil, you basically just tap the dough with the oil. But I'm just going to dust the whole top of it basically, just to make it easier. And once again, this is going to make 3 doughs. So 500 grams of flour makes 3 doughs approximately. A kilo makes 6. So for high hydration dough, I recommend doing it on the table and just folding it into itself like that. Like walking the dough, building the tension. You can always close it at the end like that. Beautiful. Try to go fast if you're going to do it off the table like this. I hope you worked at a pizzeria and can mold dough fast. The wetter the dough for me, the more I like to flour my hands. Boom, beautiful. Alright, so this is about making pizza at home. Right now I'm going to talk about the 60% hydration. It's room temperature now. It should be fully fermented, ready to go. I got 70 underneath. If you notice how it's flatter, that's because the water weighs it down and becomes flatter. That's part of a higher hydration dough. It's really nice dough. I also have an 80% hydration in the fridge I'm going to take out later. You want to make sure you got some dusting flour. You want to make sure you got your peels. I'm going to show you how to use both of these. In the oven, you're going to want a baking stone. I like to turn the light on so I can kind of see the pizza without opening and closing it too much. So I'm going to start by preheating my oven. Normally I cook it like 500, but these ovens don't get 100% as hot as they say. So just go as high as it can go, which is 550 Fahrenheit for me. And I like to turn my fan on high so I don't have the smoke alarm going off. So if it's a little hard to talk, hard to hear, I'll try to be as loud as I can, but I'm gonna need that fan on so I don't have my smoke alarm go off. It's not a bad idea to take your dough out if it's ready from the fridge once you preheat your oven. You're going to get it to 550 degrees, but you're not going to immediately make the pizza. You still have to wait an hour from the point it's preheated till the stone is hot enough to use. So I have my dough right here. I have my scraper I'm going to clean off. That's what I'm going to use to get the dough out of here. I have a plastic one somewhere. I prefer that with these trays, but I'm going to use it for the video. You're going to want some dusting flour. You can use just flour if you'd like, but it's a little harder to move off the peel. My recommendation would be to do a mix of your flour you're using and semolina. You can also use 100% semola, which is a finer grain of semolina. You can use 100% semolina. You can use a mix of cornmeal and flour. And if you're really feeling ballsy, you can do all cornmeal, but I don't really recommend that. So this is the area where I'm going to stretch my pizza, and I'll put on my wood peel here, and I'll just turn around and grab my toppings. I have my sauce in the fridge right now. I'm going to pull it out in a sec. I'm going to use this wood spoon to spread it, and I'll show you how to both make it on a wood peel. I'll show you what happens if it gets stuck when you're making the pizza, the best way to fix that. And I'll show you making on the table and sliding it onto the metal perforated peel. Alright guys, time to make pizza number one. I'm gonna do this with this 70% hydration dough. First thing you're going to want to do is flour your hands a little bit because the dough is sticky. Also, flour the top of the dough and definitely the crease if you have one between other ones. You could also throw the dough in a container of Tupperware, but I would brush the outside and the top of the dough with oil or spray it. But I love these dough trays. You can get them on Amazon. They come with a couple spatulas. They're great. Definitely add a little bit of flour to your spatula. And I go like this. I like to cut the crease. And I also like to kind of push inward with it. You can see it already stuck a little bit. I'm going to flour real nice. And I just kind of push in. Try to tuck it in as much as I can. Then I'm going to lift up with my hand so I can get under it. And I'm just going to drop it. I just turned it upside down and dropped it into my flour bowl. I'm going to put this aside. So first I'm going to show you how to do it with a wood peel, like this. You're going to want to make sure you have a nice, if you have a scraper, definitely scrape your surface, make it nice and smooth. Also dust your surface. And you're going to want to flip the dough over, have both sides floured real nice like that. Side that was on top, start on top. Add some more flour. Just be safe. You don't want to go through all this effort to mess up your pizza. So I'm going to push the air to the outside, like so. Flip it over. Do it again. Now this part, this is where you're going to want to just get the dough onto your hand. Add some more flour if you need to. If you have space, have your peel set to the side. I don't have space, so I'm going to get it on my hand and then bring my peel over to me. I go like this, I got my peel, I'm going to flour it well. The newer you are to it, or the higher hydration, you're going to want to do this. And you're basically just going to drop it to the other hand. And the weight of the dough will stretch it. Then you're going to get your fist and just stretch it a little bit. Don't try to go crazy thin. That's beautiful. Let's start with my sauce. I think with this spoon, 2 should be pretty good. I'll add a little more to be safe. I like sauce. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go in circles all the way around. I like it chunky too. But I'll show you a New York pizza sauce recipe that's much less chunky and easy to move around. But for now we're going to use this. And don't just throw your mozzarella on immediately. Next thing you're going to want to add, and I like to add if you're doing a margarita style, would be your basil or pretty much anything that you think might burn on top of the pizza. So I'm just going to put whole leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Grab my Parmesan. I didn't get my good Parmesan, but I got this for now. And I'm just going to kind of shake it over the pizza. Now I can grab my mozzarella. I got Fiordi Latte. I'm going to spread it out evenly. You want to definitely get on top of those basil leaves or basil you cut. So the more exposed it is to the heat, the easier it'll probably burn. And you want to do this fast. You want to have everything you need ready to go, right in place. Last but not least, olive oil. Definitely give it a shake. It shakes, good. You're good to go. So I'm going to open my oven. I'm going to throw it on the stone. Now, you might say, well, what if my pizza doesn't shake? I took too long. I forgot to get my stuff together. Oh no, I have to throw away the pizza. You don't have to throw away the pizza. I'm going to show you what happens when that happens. If you're using a metal perforated peel, I'm sorry, I don't have a great solution for that at the moment. So once again, just to be precautionary, just flour your dough, flour your spatula, make sure you got some flour on your hands, go through. I like to bring it together, make it more of a ball, must build more tension, go through, and then flip it onto your flour again. So the side that was up is down now, just so you know. Do it again. Now I'm not going to waste my cheese or anything, I'm just going to do it with sauce just to show you the principle. But let's say I forgot to dust it, I didn't add any more flour, I stretch it, da-da-da, you go like that, I grab my peel. I didn't dust it. I go like that. I grab my sauce. Just gonna use a little bit because I just want to show you guys what I would do. Let's pretend you had everything on here. Wow, great job. I got everything on, but it took me forever because I wasn't ready. So, what you're gonna want to do is grab a plate or a small pizza pan, and you're gonna go like this. You're gonna put it right on top. You're gonna flip the whole thing over, take it off, and that's where you're gonna do two things. You're gonna make sure your peel doesn't have any wet spots, just to make sure. You're gonna rub some flour into it. You're also gonna sprinkle your flour. If you see any wet spots, sprinkle that. And then you're gonna do the opposite. Flip it back over, hopefully nicer than I just did. And then you're gonna pick that plate up. Might not be as pretty, but at least you'll be able to make a pizza. And now, whoa, I can slide it into the oven, no problem. So, don't fret when things like that happen, that's just part of the game. Alright, now for those of you that like to use a steel perforated peel, here's how you would launch a pizza that way. So first off, once again, my flour here. I'm going to get a little bit on my hands because the dough is sticky. I'm going to get a little bit on the dough because the dough is sticky. By a little bit I mean a pretty good bit. And a little bit on the spatula to be safe. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm trying to bring it together more. Make it more upright basically. Once I get to a comfortable position, I get under the whole dough, I lift up, and I plop it in the flour mix right there. So, once again, you're going to want to have everything ready. So I'm going to flip it over, flour both sides. I'm going to dust my table. Just 70% hydration. I'm going to dust that flour, or that dough. Once again, I'm going to push the air to the outside. Just like that, and it's real gentle, especially with a high hydration dough like this. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing. And once again, I'm going to put on my hand, and I'm basically just going to drop it to the other hand. It's so heavy it'll just stretch itself. Maybe leave a little bit of flour, but not too much. Like that. First things first is the sauce. 1 and 2. Spread that to the outside. Beautiful. Alright, next thing's next. My basil. Grab a few leaves of basil. And I like to put this basil next because if it's on top, it's easier to burn. And then I grab my Parmesan, a little sprinkle, my Fiori Latte, fresh mozzarella. You want to make sure you get on top of that basil. And my olive oil. Now, like I said, if you want to have everything ready, it'd be fast. It's good to flour lightly your peel. It'll stop it from sticking, get rid of the moisture. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing a side. I make sure I don't want to be like that. I want to have a down slope to it so I can really get under it. I'm going to pinch and go under. I want to shake it to make sure it's good. And I'm immediately going to launch it. Now I love these flimsy cutting boards. You just get a wet paper towel underneath, stick it down, and you can cut whatever you want. They're super cheap. I also like to cut my pizzas on these because I can slide them off onto things easily like a plate. So, now I'm going to spin the pizza. I don't know how well you can see the oven, but hopefully you can. I'm going to try to make it so you can see it. So that's a saucy pizza. Give it a little spin. It's only got like 2 more minutes to go and that pizza is ready to rock. I think this one's ready to go. That's a beautiful pizza. So it's always good. You don't want a soggy pizza, and see how that jiggles? Letting it rest will stop that. Eat anyway. You can hear that crunchy crispiness at the bottom. You just grab the camera. Oh god. Okay. And you carefully grab the camera. So that's a super beautiful pizza. That's 70% hydration. That's how you get that big crust. And underneath, very nice and crispy. So that's a beautiful, listen to that. You can see it cracked, beautiful.